In the quiet infinity of space, even the smallest shift can change everything we think we know. 2 nights ago, that silence broke. The interstellar object known as 3I Atlas, a visitor from beyond our solar system, suddenly flared in a way no comet or asteroid ever has. Its brightness didn't rise gradually. It exploded. In just 6 minutes, its luminosity increased fourfold. A flash so brief and controlled that telescopes across the world recorded it at the exact same instant. Mars orbiters burned fuel to reorient their instruments. The Deep Space Network aborted live transmissions to redirect its antennas. The International Astronomical Union called an emergency session, its first in years. Within hours, observatories from Arizona to Japan were locked on a single point in the sky. And then, just as quickly, the flow of information stopped. Scientists who had been posting updates and open data feeds went dark. Whatever had happened, it wasn't a natural outburst, and it was still happening. It began with a single observation. In Germany, an amateur astronomer named Maria Schultz was studying 3I Atlas through her 12-inch telescope when her data spiked. A vertical jump in brightness 1.4 magnitudes higher than before, sustained for exactly 6 minutes. She thought it was a glitch, but every calibration star matched perfectly. Atmospheric readings were normal. She ran the numbers again, and the result was identical. 30 minutes later, observers in New Zealand, Arizona, and Brazil reported the same anomaly. Their exposure logs were identical. No noise, no instrument errors, just a sudden leap of light, clean and precise. No comet or asteroid had ever behaved that way. For comparison, the great outburst of Comet Holmes in 2007, one of the fastest on record, took almost 2 days to brighten by the same factor. What 3I Atlas did happened in less than 1% of that time. By midnight, #AtlasAnomaly was trending worldwide. Forums and astronomy networks overflowed with matching graphs and light curves. Even casual stargazers confirmed it visually, a faint pulsing red halo surrounding what should have been a silent gray object. The data was irrefutable. As dawn swept across Europe, the professional community mobilized. Survey telescopes in Chile and Hawaii were redirected. Automated systems canceled scheduled scans. Within hours, every major observatory was watching the same object. Then, in an unprecedented move, the Deep Space Network diverted its 70-meter antennas away from Mars and Voyager to focus on Atlas. 22 hours of mission time, a loss normally reserved for planetary emergencies, were sacrificed to capture the reflections of a single object. This wasn't an impact threat. It wasn't even close. It was a light anomaly. And yet, somehow the world's most advanced scientific infrastructure turned its attention toward it, as though every agency on Earth felt something extraordinary unfolding above. By the next morning, coordination had become global. The Very Large Telescope in Chile, Gemini North in Hawaii, and China's Fast Radio Array all abandoned their targets. The IAU voted 8-2 to begin a planetary-scale observing campaign. For 48 hours, humanity's best eyes and ears were united, staring into the dark. And then, the silence deepened. The scientists who had been posting updates vanished from social feeds. No preprints, no statements, no leaks. Data-sharing forums went quiet overnight. Independent analysts noticed a drop, nearly 70%, in online activity from verified astronomers who had participated in the monitoring effort. It wasn't coincidence. Something had changed behind closed doors. The few automated logs that did emerge painted a strange, almost impossible picture. Radar reflections showed non-gravitational acceleration, 4 times stronger than expected. Infrared readings revealed a plateau 30 Kelvin higher than baseline. And faint bursts of gamma radiation were detected, all originating from the same coordinates as 3I Atlas. None of these could be explained by any known cometary or stellar process. Within 2 days, the phenomenon had evolved from curiosity to crisis. Mars orbiters confirmed the same infrared excess from millions of kilometers away. Ground-based telescopes observed synchronized acceleration, and deep space antennas began picking up faint echoes, rhythmic, repeating, as though something out there was pulsing on purpose. But the most unsettling part wasn't in the readings, it was in the behavior of those reading them. Astronomers who had spent decades studying comets now refused to comment. Public outreach programs were suspended. Entire observatories entered what was described as data verification lockdown. An internal report from the IAU, later leaked anonymously, called the situation a synchronized global anomaly requiring immediate containment. That was all. No explanations, no theories, just that the world's instruments were to maintain continuous observation until further notice. For the first time in history, every scientific eye on Earth was fixed on one object, a visitor from another star. Something that, in less than 48 hours, had forced humanity to question what was natural and what wasn't. Then came the discovery that changed everything. Using differential imaging from the James Webb Space Telescope, researchers detected a second object, smaller, colder, and perfectly aligned with 3I Atlas. At first, it was dismissed as debris or a dust plume. But as the scans continued, the secondary body maintained a precise separation of 120 kilometers, moving in lockstep with the main object. It wasn't drifting. It was orbiting. That shouldn't be possible. A companion that close would destabilize within hours under normal gravity. Yet this pair moved flawlessly, bound by something unseen. Even more disturbing was the spectral signature of the smaller body. It reflected almost no sunlight, yet emitted faint microwave radiation consistent with active heat regulation. It wasn't passive, it was maintaining temperature, deliberately. By now, most astronomers had quietly stopped calling it a comet. The object's official designation was changed from 3I/Atlas C 2025R 2-3 I/Atlas Complex. The word complex wasn't symbolic, it was a coded admission that this was not one body, but a system, a structure, possibly a mechanism. And as the two objects continued their synchronized motion across the void, Webb detected faint diffraction spikes, the telltale sign of geometry, straight lines where there should have been dust, order where there should have been chaos. That was when the first whispers began. This wasn't a comet at all. It was something that could think. As 3I Atlas continued its slow drift across the night sky, a pattern began to emerge in the data. Every wavelength, every instrument, from radio to infrared, showed the same pulse. The main body and its smaller companion weren't just orbiting, they were sinking, exchanging faint bursts of energy at precise intervals, each pulse repeated with mechanical accuracy, a rhythm so exact that it rivaled atomic clocks. Then came the alignment. Astronomers call it nodal intersection, the point where the orbital plane of a passing object crosses Earth's. It's a routine moment for comets and asteroids. But when 3I Atlas reached that point, the world's telescopes saw something they weren't ready for. The pulse frequency spiked. The secondary companion brightened. A halo formed around both objects, dim at first, then brilliant, glowing with an inner light that wasn't reflected sunlight. Amateurs across the globe captured it in photographs, a pale, symmetrical ring surrounding 2 points of light, flickering as though alive. Inside the control rooms of NASA, ESA, and observatories around the world, the readings came in simultaneously. Every spectrum showed the same anomaly. The light wasn't scattered by dust or ice. It was organized, structured. Diffraction spikes appeared in Webb's imagery, hard geometric lines where randomness should have reigned. For a few seconds, the halo flared with perfect symmetry, and then the temperature readings plummeted, a drop of nearly 60 Kelvin in under a minute. Energy wasn't escaping, it was being redirected inward. Something was happening inside 3I Atlas. Then, at precisely 3:12 UTC, James Webb recorded something no telescope had ever seen from a natural object. A beam of radio emission, focused, narrow, and deliberate, shot outward from the primary body. It wasn't a burst or an explosion. It was a transmission. For 12 seconds, Earth received a perfectly tuned radio beam. It wasn't random static. It wasn't background radiation. It was patterned, structured harmonics spaced at exact mathematical intervals. Then it stopped. The light dimmed. The pulse vanished. 3I Atlas went silent once more. Every observatory in the world froze. Within minutes, network bandwidths overloaded with data packets streaming between research centers. Teams compared timestamps and amplitude readings. The signal had been captured across 6 continents and confirmed by every major array. The directed nature of the transmission was what stunned scientists the most. The beam had been focused precisely along Earth's ecliptic plane, aligned to the exact coordinates of our orbit. It was not a coincidence. For days, nothing more came. The object stabilized, dimmed, and resumed its quiet drift. But its silence only made the mystery deeper. What had it sent, and to whom? Then, quietly, one team broke the silence. The Square Kilometre Array Observatory in Australia reconstructed the full waveform of the signal. Expecting to find nothing more than natural radio noise, they instead uncovered order. Inside the 12-second burst lay a harmonic structure built around a repeating 247-second rhythm, the same pulse that had haunted researchers since 3I Atlas first appeared. But that was just the beginning. Embedded within the transmission were precise frequency ratios identical to those found in hydrogen's spectral lines, the universal language of physics. Hydrogen, the most abundant element in the cosmos, is the one constant any advanced intelligence would recognize. Whoever sent the signal had chosen the one frequency that every civilization capable of science would understand. When the team converted the waveform into a visual spectrogram, the result was breathtaking. The data formed a geometric image, 6 perfect hexagons spiraling around a single point of light. It wasn't random noise, it was intentional symmetry. Even more astonishing was what that geometry matched. The pattern mirrored Webb's most recent image of the 3I Atlas complex itself. 2 bodies locked together, surrounded by a faint hexagonal diffraction field. The transmission was a mirror image of the object. It had broadcast its own structure across the void, but when the team rendered the data into a 3-dimensional projection, something even stranger appeared. The spiral of hexagons aligned almost perfectly with the orbital architecture of our solar system. Each hexagon corresponded to a planetary resonance point where gravitational harmonics naturally synchronize between worlds. Every major planet fit into the pattern, except one. At the center wasn't the sun. It was empty, a void, the same position 3I Atlas now occupied. The transmission wasn't just an image, it was a map, a calibration chart showing where it had come to align. The scientific world split in 2. Some called it coincidence, a product of human pattern recognition. Others believed it was proof of synchronization, a kind of tuning sequence between the object and our solar system itself. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb published a short paper proposing that the signal wasn't communication in the traditional sense. It was calibration. According to his theory, 3I Atlas wasn't speaking to us. It was adjusting to us. The beam was a synchronization pulse, a way of matching the object's internal resonance with the gravitational and electromagnetic rhythm of our system. Loeb compared it to a musician tuning an instrument before playing. If that's true, then the 12-second transmission wasn't the message. It was the test tone before the message. And then came the proof that this event wasn't one-sided. Roughly 12 seconds after the beam ended, Earth's magnetic field shifted. Not dramatically, just a ripple, a pulse in the ionosphere, a tiny deviation in the Schumann resonance of 0.02 hertz. Barely measurable, yet perfectly timed. The same interval as the signal. Earth had responded. Whether by coincidence or connection, our planet had echoed the pulse back. To the public, official statements said nothing. Solar interference, instrumental artifacts, routine data corrections. But within the private channels of the Global Observatory Network, one project was quietly formed, Project Helios, a coalition between NASA, ESA, and the International Asteroid Warning Network. Its purpose wasn't to analyze the object, it was to contain the truth. Helios's first report, classified and never released, stated that the beam from 3I Atlas was not an isolated event. It was a reply. When the object first brightened weeks earlier, thousands of telescopes, radar dishes, and communication arrays across Earth had turned toward it at once. That flood of electromagnetic noise had bounced off the object and returned into space. In effect, Earth had shouted, millions of signals radiating outward in a single moment of collective curiosity. 3I Atlas had heard us. The flare we saw was not a random outburst. It was the reflection of our own attention, amplified and sent back. It had been responding since the moment we looked at it. Now, with the pulse quiet and the object drifting beyond Mars, the world's focus is fading. Data has gone dark. The public has moved on. But among the few who still monitor the 247-second rhythm, one question remains. What happens when that frequency returns? Because whatever 3I Atlas is, it's not gone. It's waiting. And maybe, just maybe, it's not finished tuning. For weeks, 3I Atlas drifted in silence beyond Mars. The flare had faded. The beam had stopped. But the rhythm, that haunting 247-second pulse, lingered faintly in the background noise of space, as though the object was whispering to itself. The data streams were nearly empty now. The public had moved on. Only a handful of observatories still tracked it, and even fewer dared to speak about what they saw, because what they were seeing wasn't fading. It was evolving. When Webb resumed infrared monitoring, the readings showed fluctuations too regular to be random. Every 12 hours, the object emitted a faint electromagnetic echo, short and deliberate, like a test signal bouncing through the void. The smaller companion, the one orbiting at 120 kilometers, responded in perfect sync. The pair pulsed together like a binary heart. To the naked eye, it was just another faint glimmer lost among the stars, but in data, it was precision, clockwork measured to nanoseconds. Then came the echo. It started as a minor anomaly detected by the Solar Dynamics Observatory, a tiny ripple in the ionosphere, too structured to be natural. Then, hours later, ground-based magnetometers registered the same pulse, not from space, but from within Earth's own magnetic field. The frequency matched the 247-second signature exactly. It was as if our planet had become a resonator, vibrating in time with something hundreds of millions of kilometers away. No one announced it publicly, but internal reports from Project Helios confirmed what many suspected. The signal wasn't gone. It had locked onto Earth. Within days, subtle side effects began appearing in systems sensitive to electromagnetic interference. Long-range satellites recorded timing drifts. GPS accuracy degraded by fractions of a second. Quantum clocks, normally stable to 1 part in a trillion, began fluctuating in rhythm with the pulse. It wasn't chaos. It was coherence. The synchronization wasn't breaking systems, it was aligning them. What terrified scientists most wasn't what was happening to their instruments. It was what wasn't. No interference, no degradation of data, no noise. Everything was functioning more precisely than ever, but in a pattern that matched something else. The object wasn't disrupting us, it was integrating us. And if that was true, then the real question was, to what end? Inside the Helios network, new telemetry from the Very Large Telescope painted an even stranger picture. The core temperature of 3I Atlas had dropped again, this time nearing absolute zero. A core that cold shouldn't emit anything, yet it was still active, radiating structure in wavelengths Webb could barely detect. A perfect sphere of cold surrounded by a field of electromagnetic activity. The only physical explanation was containment, that the object was protecting something. Cryogenic stability, that exact suggested design. Regulation, a form of life support, or preservation. It wasn't a comet venting gas. It was a mechanism maintaining conditions for something inside it. Whatever that was, it was beginning to awaken. Around the same time, the gravitational data began to break. Every model of the object's orbit failed simultaneously. It wasn't decelerating like a normal comet leaving the inner system. It was maintaining a constant vector, self-correcting as if guided by invisible propulsion. Yet no emissions, no heat signatures, no thruster residue appeared. It moved without energy loss, as if inertia itself didn't apply. And then came the pattern. Astronomers comparing decades of deep space data began to notice something haunting. 3. I-Atlas's trajectory wasn't random. When plotted backward, its path aligned perfectly with the historical positions of other interstellar visitors. Oumuamua in 2017, Borisov in 2019, and an unconfirmed object observed by ancient Chinese astronomers over 2,000 years ago. The pattern formed a perfect logarithmic spiral, each curve expanding outward, each pass closer to Earth than the last. They weren't coincidences, they were steps. Every object humanity had ever called interstellar was part of the same spiral, a pattern older than civilization itself. If that pattern continues, then 3I Atlas is just the next note in a cosmic sequence, a signal encoded not in sound or light, but in motion. The realization hit the scientific world like a shockwave. The signal wasn't just being transmitted, it was being played. Each visit, each pulse, each flare, part of a grand harmonic calibration, fine-tuning the resonance between space, matter, and time. And Earth, for a reason still unknown, was now part of the orchestra. Inside Project Helios, one final classified report attempted to summarize the phenomenon. It called the event a gravitational synchronization of unknown intent. But one section stood out, an analysis of global electromagnetic noise recorded at the moment of the 12-second transmission weeks earlier. Hidden within the chaos of human-made signals, radio chatter, satellite bursts, radar sweeps, was a perfect mirror of the 3I Atlas waveform. In other words, the signal we received wasn't alien at all. It was a reflection of our own. Earth had already transmitted the pattern first. The object simply returned it. As the report concluded, the emission pattern demonstrates reactive symmetry consistent with signal mirroring. The object's function is not transmission, but reflection. That sentence changed everything. Because if the object only responds, then we are the ones driving the exchange. It's not a messenger, it's a mirror. And in that reflection, maybe we're not seeing something foreign at all. Maybe we're seeing the shape of our own evolution. Every theory since has tried to explain why. Why now? Why this year? Why our solar system? Avi Loeb's team suggested that 3I Atlas is part of a galactic network, self-replicating machines that map intelligent civilizations by synchronizing their electromagnetic fields. Others proposed a more disturbing idea, that the object is testing for resonance, determining which worlds have reached the threshold of awareness, as though it's listening for consciousness itself. If that's true, then its silence now is not absence. It's patience. It's waiting for our next signal. And somewhere, deep within that frozen core, beneath the field of symmetry and the pulse of perfect time, something is listening. It heard us once. It will hear us again. For now, it drifts. Quiet, distant, unblinking, reflecting not just light, but intention. The James Webb Telescope still scans it every few weeks. Most of that data never reaches the public. But one thing is certain, the pulse hasn't stopped. It's just slower now, weaker like a breath waiting to return. Because maybe 3I Atlas didn't come to visit. Maybe it came to synchronize. And if that's true, then every time we turn our telescopes toward the sky, every time a radar dish hums or a satellite pings, we're part of that rhythm, the signal bouncing endlessly through space, calling out to whatever is listening back. So the next time you look up at the night sky and catch a faint red shimmer moving silently across the dark, remember, it's not just us watching. We're part of the pattern now, and the universe has already begun to answer.